1, active third scramble into descending zone.
Hello, today is August 8, 2019, and we're on board our Piper Cherokee at Tacoma Narrows Airport in Gig Harbor, Washington. And today we're going to be flying the pattern here at Tacoma Narrows. The focus today is going to be how to land consistently well. And really the three ingredients for consistent, good landings is first to fly a good traffic pattern consistently. So we're going to shoot for that today. And the next thing we're going to shoot for is consistent airspeed settings throughout the pattern based on your aircraft type. Now in this airplane, at the runway threshold on downwind, we want to set the power at 1500 RPMs and our first notch of flaps, and then we want to pitch for 100 miles per hour, which is pretty close to 90 knots. And then when we're about 200 feet below pattern altitude and we are on our 45-degree angle from the runway threshold, we're going to make our left turn to base, and we're going to maintain 90 miles per hour on base leg, which is pretty close to 80 knots. And set our second notch of flaps once we've leveled out. And when we turn final, we're going to maintain 80 miles per hour and set our final notch of flaps when landing is assured. And then the last ingredient for consistent good landings is the transition from your final approach on glide slope to landing the airplane. And it's not a flare, as is commonly referred to. You're not flaring the airplane. You don't flare these small general aviation airplanes. It creates a lot of problems for you. What you do is you transition from glide slope, from your approach, to slow flight over the runway. So I'm not flaring, I'm transitioning from my approach to slow flight just above the runway, and then just let the airplane stall and come to a smooth landing on the mains, followed by the nose wheel. So that's what we're going to shoot for. Let's go ahead and get our clearance for some pattern work and hope for the best. We'll do two touch and goes and then a full stop. So we do have a slight crosswind. I looked at the windsock, the wind coming slightly from the left. So we'll make those corrections in the pattern again so that we have a consistently good pattern. Tacoma Tower, Cherokee 7428 Romeo holding short runway 17 pattern work. Cherokee 7428 Romeo, Tacoma Tower, winds variable, runway 17. Clear for takeoff, make left close traffic. Clear for takeoff, runway 17, left close traffic, Cherokee 7428 Romeo. Okay, landing light is on, fuel pump is on, and lights, camera, action. All right. All right, lined up for takeoff, full power, and we're going to rotate at 75 miles per hour. There's 60, 65, 75, and we're off the ground. And we're going to maintain 85 on climb out. So I'm going to trim for that. Maintaining runway center line. There's 85. And we're trim for that. My hands are off the flight controls right now. Maintaining center line, and we're going to make our left crosswind turn at about 900 feet. There's 900, turning crosswind. So here on this crosswind, we're going to have a slight headwind, and we're going to make a nice gentle 20-degree bank angle, continuing our climb, maintaining 85 miles per hour. And coming up on 1,200 feet, we're going to pull the power nice and smoothly back to about 2,100 RPMs. And we're going to roll out perpendicular to the runway center line. And there's 1,300. So again, we have a slight headwind because we have a left crosswind for runway 17. So we're going to extend out just a little bit more here and make our downwind turn. Again, 20-degree bank angle, maintaining 1,300 feet. And we're going to roll out on heading 350. There's 350. And I use these rivet lines as a guide for my distance from the runway for consistency. So maintaining 1,300, heading 350. And we're going to pull the power back to 1,500 RPMs right at the runway threshold. And there's the threshold, so power back to 1,500. And we're going to add our first notch of flaps. We're going to descend at 100 miles per hour, so we're pitching for that. And there's 100. We're going to look for about a 200-foot drop in altitude, and there's the runway 45. So we're making a left turn on crosswind, on down, or base leg rather, at 20-degree bank angle. And here we want to maintain 90 miles per hour. So we're pitching for that. And we're going to roll out perpendicular to the runway. So we're going to roll out right here, add our second notch of flaps. And turning final. And on final, we want to maintain 80 miles per hour. Again, 20-degree bank angle. Making changes as necessary in the bank angle to line up with the runway. Okay, so we're looking for 80 miles per hour. Remember, airspeed is important for consistently good landings. We're pitching for airspeed and power for sink rate. So we want to pitch down a little bit and bring it back to 80. We're going to reduce our sink rate by adding a little bit of power. There's 80. Final notch of flaps. Landing is assured. So now we want to transition from our approach on glide slope. Okay, we're pulling the power back, and we're just smoothly transitioning into slow flight above the runway. Shifting my focus down the runway, getting a nice consistent picture. Just keeping the nose up, nose up, nose up, nose up. And there's the mains. And flaps retracted, applying full power, carpet off. And there's 75, and we're off the ground. So again, we want to climb out at 85 miles per hour, trimming for that. And looking for 900, and we'll make our crosswind turn. And there's 900. Nice, smooth 20-degree bank angle. Continuing our climb, looking for 1,300. And there's 1,200. It's going to pull the power back smoothly to 2,100 RPMs. And we're going to roll out right there. There's 1,300, and we're perpendicular to the runway. And we're going to trim for that. And it's going to extend out a little bit on crosswind because we have a headwind right now. Ever so slight, but it's there. And we're going to make our downwind turn. Again, 20-degree bank angle. We want to monitor our altitude, keep it at 1,300. We're going to roll out on heading 350. And there's 350. Again, I'm going to use that rivet line as a guide to gauge my distance consistently from the runway on my downwind leg. So maintaining 1,300. Looking for that runway threshold on heading 350. And there's the threshold. Power smoothly back to 1500. First notch flaps. We're going to pitch for 100 miles per hour. Controlling airspeed with pitch. There's about 200 and we're at 45 from the runway threshold, so we're turning our base leg. Again, 20-degree bank angle. Now we're going to pitch for 90 miles per hour. And there's 90. Now I'm going to roll out perpendicular to the runway. So we'll roll out right there. Maintaining 90. Gaining a little bit of power. And we'll turn final. And here we want to maintain 80 miles per hour. Overshot that a little. It's harder in a simulator to keep that orientation. Okay, so again, pitch for speed, power for sink rate. Pitch down for 80. Final notch of flaps, landing is assured. And again, we're transitioning from our approach to slow flight just above the runway surface. Nice, smooth transition. There it is. Just going to keep that nose off. Hold that nose off the runway. Hold that nose off. Just let the airplane stall just above the runway surface. There it is. Flaps retracted, carb heat off, and full power. And there's 75 off the ground. I'll do one more touch and go and then a full stop. And the reason is I wasn't satisfied with my final turn there. I turned a little bit late. Again, I know I've said this, it is harder to fly the pattern in a simulator than it is in a real airplane. Without question. It's just difficult to have a clear understanding of where you are in relation to the runway because of the limitations of the simulator. All right, turning crosswind, nice 20-degree turn, and we'll pull the power back to 2100 RPMs, leveling off at 1,300. And we'll roll out right there. And we'll make our downwind turn. Again, 20-degree bank angle. And we'll roll that on 350 heading. And there's 350. So again, we're using that rivet line as a guide. Coming up on the threshold. And there it is, power back to 1500. First notch of flaps. And we're going to pitch for 100. There's 100, I want to trim for that. And that's about 200 feet, and we're at about a 45 from the runway. So turning left base, 20-degree bank angle, we're going to pitch for 90. And we're going to roll out perpendicular to the runway. There's 90. And there's our rollout. And we're going to turn final. We're going to add that second notch of flaps, turning final. And we're going to pitch for 80. And there's 80. Add a little bit of power in. Pitching for 80. Power for sink rate. Just going to reduce the sink rate just a little bit. There's 80. Final notch of flaps. Landing is assured. So we're on our approach, and we're going to transition nice and smoothly. Okay, landing is assured. Pulling power smoothly back, and we're going to transition to slow flight just above the runway. Just keeping the nose up, keeping the nose up, keeping the nose up. Center line, center line. Mains are down, nose is down. And carb heat off. Full power. Flaps retracted. And 75. And we're off the ground. Climb out at 85. Maintaining runway center line. Calibrate that directional gyro. And there's 85. My hands are off the flight controls. Everything's trimmed up nice. There's 900 feet. Making our left turn, 20-degree bank angle. Continuing our climb, looking for 1,300. Maintaining 85. And there's 1,200. We're going to smoothly pull the power back to 2,100 RPMs. And we got a little bit of turbulence right there. Rolling out perpendicular to the runway center line. Maintaining 1,300. And we're going to turn downwind. Again, 20-degree bank angle, nice smooth inputs. Roll that on heading 350. And there's 350. Rolling out. Again, looking at that rivet line. Looking for the runway threshold. There it is, power smoothly back to 1,500. Carb heat on, flaps. And we're going to pitch for 100. Looking for about a 200-foot drop in altitude. And there it is, and looking for the thresholds. Making our left turn for base leg. We want to maintain 90 here, so we want to pitch for that. All the while trimming to relieve control pressure. There's 90. We're going to roll out perpendicular to the runway. There it is. Maintaining 90. And turning final. And we want to maintain 80 here. And landing's assured. Final notch of flaps. Pitching for airspeed. Pitch down just a little bit. Add a tiny little bit of power. And landing's assured. Power back. So we're transitioning now nice and smoothly to slow flight over the runway. Just looking down the runway at that sight picture. Just looking down the runway, keeping that nose off, keeping the nose off. And there it is, nose wheels down, flaps retracted, carpet off. And we'll turn out right here. So on that last go around, I would have asked Tower for a full stop. And we'll get off here, clean up the airplane a little bit. All right, so landing light off, fuel pump off. Gonna lean for taxi. Tacoma Tower, Cherokee 7428 Romeo is clear of the runway. Cherokee 7428 Romeo, taxi via Alpha Bravo 3. Parking via Alpha Bravo 3, Cherokee 7428 Romeo. So we'll go back and take a look at our patterns, see if they are consistent or not consistent. A couple of things I was not happy with. Overshot the runway twice. I know I sound like a broken record, but understanding where you are in the pattern is easier in a real airplane than it is in a simulator. So if you can do it well in a simulator, you will do it well in a real airplane. It's going to park it right here next to the tower in the interest of saving some time. All right, let's do a shutdown. I'm going to put the parking brake on. Turning all electronic equipment off, radios off, transponder off. Coming right to left, rotating beacon off. All other lights are off. Master switch off. Idle cutoff, ignition off. All right, let's take a look. And see how good or not so good we did here with our pattern work. Okay, well, there's our patterns. A little bit of crosswind effect here kind of pushed us out, and we came a little bit wide on a couple of them. So here we are, just coming up to the threshold on our final landing. So our power is going back to 1500. First notch of flaps is added. So we'll go outside the airplane and take a look. Back inside, and there's about 200 feet, so I'm turning my base leg and pitching here for 90 miles per hour. And there's 90. And rolling out perpendicular to the runway. Should be turning final here any second. There it is. Outside the airplane. So we're at 25 degrees flaps. And once landing is assured out with that final notch of flaps, which is 40 degrees, I typically don't add that until landing is assured because it really does slow the airplane down. It increases your sink rate considerably. So here we should be at 80 miles per hour. There it is. Back outside the airplane. final notch flaps has been added. Again, we're smoothly transitioning from our approach. Nope, you don't see a flare there, just a nice smooth transition to level flight. Slightly nose up, keeping the nose up, keeping that nose up. Just letting it there, the main wheels and the nose wheel. For consistent, good landings, and that's always my goal. It doesn't mean I always land well. It just means that's my goal. The three things I focus on is flying consistent, good patterns, flying consistent airspeed settings throughout my pattern, and then that smooth transition from my final approach to my landing. It's not a flare, it's a transition where I'm just leveling the airplane out, looking down the runway at that sight picture, and just letting the airplane settle down onto the runway. It's basically slow flight above a runway until you stall. Nothing wrong with stalling when you're a foot or two above the runway. So that's my approach to consistent, good landings. Hope you enjoyed it and look forward to joining you next time.